Hello, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with artists from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Hello and welcome back to the Creative Matters podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm speaking with Rachael Errington in this episode. Rachael is a visual artist living, working and exhibiting in both New Zealand and Australia. She has been showing her paintings professionally for over 20 years and has had 40 major solo exhibitions to date. Rachael grew up living in the middle of an English wood where she and her brother spent most of their time making dens and treehouses. It's undoubtedly this experience that created her fascination with painting trees. Her work is inspired by colours in nature and the way light filters through flora, creating emotive connections for the viewer, encouraging them to feel something that is peaceful, wistful and calming. It was such a pleasure meeting the wonderfully vivacious Rachael. Her positive outlook on life and her approach to her art business and painting practice is really inspiring. She has some great tips for artists and valuable insights for us all after experiencing a traumatic health event in 2020. Rachael goes on into exciting, fascinating depth about her painting practice, how she paints her entire canvas black before starting a painting, how her underpainting becomes a simple landscape with a light point, which are all beautiful in themselves, how she creates the sculptural elements in her trees, how she adds in the light rays and mists at the end, and why she loves to paint big. You can see her current solo show, Memoirs from Nature, which is on now at Art Bay Gallery in Queenstown, running from June the 19th to July the 3rd, 2024. I know you're going to really enjoy this episode. Good morning, Rachael.
Good morning.
It's very lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast.
You're so welcome. Okay, now we've already been chatting for ages, and you're a very interesting woman. I can't believe the things that you managed to fit into your life. So can't wait to hear the story. You were born in England.
Born in the middle of beautiful Liverpool, but we moved away when I was very young. So I only have a few memories of being in Liverpool. We moved away when we were, I think it was about 4. Mum and Dad just wanted, it was a bit crazy in Liverpool at that time. And Mum and Dad were both full-time teachers there, and teaching was tricky with 2 young kids, so they moved down to Hereford, which is where part of our family is from originally. So that was in the Midlands in the UK, and that was the beginnings of my rural roots, I would say. So I don't really remember Liverpool, I have to be honest.
Okay.
A couple of vague memories. Yeah.
And were you a child who was wanting to create and make?
Apparently, I was the child who sold the tickets to the adults to watch the play that I had got all the cousins to begrudgingly become involved in. So, yeah, I was that one. Actually, my roots were musical because my father and my mum, actually, mum and dad are both musicians. Dad writes opera, does concert pianist type things.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's the sort of mad musician type, which he'll laugh when he hears this. And mum is much more sensible musician type and a mathematician, but I did not inherit mum's maths ability at all. But I did inherit dad's kind of bubbly musical side. And he's also a very good artist. So that's where I got that from. And I think as a child we had, because it was like the 80s, wasn't it? So basically I had a choice. I could either do music or art, but back then you couldn't do both. So I chose art because I knew I would always have music in my life, I suppose. Yeah. But yes, I was quite out there as a kid, definitely. Yeah. A little bit shyer through my teenage years. Didn't really connect very well at my school in my teenage years, just through a little bit of shyness as a teenager. But as a younger kid, I was definitely, I don't know if naughty is the right word, but loud. Let's go with that.
Vivacious.
Vivacious, good word, yes.
And at high school, were you starting to see your talent in the art room?
Yeah, I had really lovely art teachers. And I mean, actually, we had great teachers at the school I was in. There was none of them that were, nasty or anything like that. But we had nice teachers. And one of my art teachers, Mr. Thorndyke, he was a lovely chap. And I remember we had to draw our favourite animal, and mine was a horse because I used to ride all the time. So I drew a horse and rider. And I remember, I can still picture it now. I've still got the drawing. And he was so amazed by the fact that I'd managed to draw it accurately. And so he sort of nurtured that a bit, which was great. So I did have good nurturing through my art lessons. And then we did have to make funny choices at school back then. Like I could, after school, we had clubs, and I could either do sport or art, which seems so dumb. I guess I don't know. I mean, I would have happily done both, so I chose art, much to the sports teachers' irritation because I was quite good at sport. But yeah, so I did have good nurturing through school with my teachers, definitely. Yeah.
And were you thinking at the end of high school, when you're thinking about your career, were you thinking it would have to be something creative?
I had initially, because mum and dad were both teachers, grown up with the idea that that would be something I would do. But actually, as I got old, from a very young age, I realised that I didn't really like being around kids. So that wasn't, and I don't have my own children, and I like them in small doses, and I like friends' children, and I like to be the favourite auntie and spoil them rotten. But the teaching patience I had with a large group of kids, because I did look at it, I went and helped mum and dad because they're both teachers and things like that. I just prefer the one-on-one. So I never really initially was going to be a teacher, then realized that that wasn't going to suit me in the slightest, and then didn't have a clue. So I did get into university to study English literature in the first instance in Barnstaple in the UK. And about a week before I was due to go, I thought, this isn't me either. I love books and I love reading, and that saves my world, when I'm painting and I listen to a book. It's brilliant. But I just knew it wasn't me. So I disappeared off to New Zealand for a year. And then I had a completely different career start. I actually worked in the local pub, and they had a sort of an upgrade, and they got a Michelin star chef in. And so I worked for him for a couple of years. And that I thought then that I might be a chef because I really enjoyed it and because I'm visual. And he was great. He taught me everything. So I did actually chef full time for about between 4 and 6 years, I would say. Yeah. And then when I did decide to go back to arty things, it was great because I could contract out chefing in the evenings for a bit of extra cash, which was great. So it still helped me through when I finally did my degree, which was a little later, not much later, I was 21. Chefing was great because I had that ability to go in the evenings. And I used to cook for all my flatmates, which they loved, of course.
Yeah, I bet they did. Best
Yeah.
flatmate ever. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so good that you actually, were even then at that young age quite keen to kind of keep making. And were you painting at that point?
Yes. I mean, I've always been creative, definitely. Funnily enough, I've got an email I'm going back to the UK next week. I think I told you that, but I got an email from my oldest, bestest friend, her parents, saying they were terribly sorry. They would miss me because they're away in Brittany cycling, but they've still got my pink papier mâché pig that I made when I was 11.
Really?
I was like, I can't believe you've still got that, but they
Yeah,
have.
that's amazing. How
Yeah,
good is that?
yeah. So I was always making and doing something.
Yeah, so you went back to you were chefing back in England, is that
Yes,
right? After you'd come here. And
yeah.
then did you decide you needed to study art?
Yeah, I knew that I actually really enjoyed chefing, but there was a nagging. I knew that I wanted to do something else, and I knew that I wanted to go and study. And to be brutally honest, the kick up the bum in the end was I was the last year to apply in the UK where you could get funding to do a degree. at that time. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, it really needs to be now. So I went and applied to do a degree in illustration, which basically had a whole plethora of things, which I thought would be good for me because I have a very short attention span. So it had a photography course within it, and also it had a business studies course as part of the degree. And I thought that would be a really knowledgeable thing. There's no point in creating things if you can't sell them. For me, if I wanted to do that full time. So it had a whole different, I did graphic design within it. I did editorial design. I did life drawing and art history. It was a really diverse creative degree, which for me was perfect because I got to try everything that I dabbled. I did printmaking for a year, which I absolutely loved. And I, at that time, thought that's the way I would go with. I would be a printmaker. The process of printmaking definitely taught me a whole lot about creating, how to create spaces on canvas. Drawing is something I've never really done. I tend to look at negative spaces to create the positive ones. If that makes any sense at all. But
Yeah.
rather than just drawing a tree, I will think of what's around the trees and then let the trees grow. Pardon the pun. Yeah. So printmaking was big in my life for a little while there. After I studied, I went back to chefing for a year just to save up a few pennies because I knew that I would be able to do that because I was good at it. I think I really enjoyed it as well. I just really hated. It got to the point where I just didn't want to work all the weekends and miss out on everything like that. So I started a handmade cards business where I did, each card was actually miniature painting, so people could buy them as a painting, and that was great because I was kind of forced into, you can make 100 handmade cards in a day, so it helped my technique immensely because you've just got to go for it, go out into the wilds of the UK. I was living near the woods, so sort of wilds, and that was really good. And then I'd saved up a bit of money, so I decided to go to Australia for a year. So I went and, well, chefed is a bit of a stretch, cooked in a youth hostel with a very, very good friend of mine for a few months. And then we traveled around Australia and did that. And I did no art in Australia. Oh, I did. I did actually draw. I did a painting for someone. I did one painting for someone. So I did nothing for a year to do with art. Just did my traveling, my backpacking.
Yeah.
And then I came back to the UK for another 3 years probably. And that's when I really started to look into using the creativity that I had got. So my first job creatively really was graphic design.
Mm-hmm. Which is it's a very common career for many artists that I've spoken to, actually.
It is, yeah. And I think it's great because it starts you off with a bit of discipline. And I think you do need that going, if you're going to become self-employed and practice it properly. I'm the discipline of working. I treat my self-employedness like a job. I do not swan around with cups of tea all day or whatever. Well, I don't like tea anyway, despite my Britishness. And so I have a lot of friends who will come and call on me, and I've taught them. I'll open the door and say, well, it's Monday and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'm working, but I'll give you a call later when I'm done. So I have to be quite disciplined with people thinking, oh, she can just stop. So no, I can't actually.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice, I think, is to have that kind of discipline.
Yeah.
You have flexibility. I think that's what the thing is. So you can be seen out having a coffee perhaps one morning, but they don't see that you're actually working that night as well. And,
Yeah, I do have to remind people that if I'm doing something in the day with them, that's brilliant. And I do love having that flexibility, but I will then have to go and work that evening, which is tricky because I don't really want to work at nights because it's dark, where I live. So I can't, it's difficult getting the lighting right. So, but yeah, I think that's my choice to have that discipline. I know a lot of people don't, but for me personally, I have a lot of turnover as well. I have a high turnover of works. And once I get excited about an idea that I've had, then I just want to finish it anyway. So I will have my main focus. I've very much got a pattern with it. My main focus is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'll have 3 really full days, probably 10-hour days. And then Thursday, Friday, I'll bring it back a bit and do things that are less focused for me, like varnishing and wrapping and packing and stringing and doing all that sort of the stuff that people forget about. I think you just sit down, paint, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's not quite. I mean, sometimes, yeah. But
Yeah, the realities of being an artist. So yeah, as you say, you are incredibly prolific. You've had, I mean, you've been a professional artist working full time for 15 years,
yeah,
but
it's more
you've
than
been
that now.
exhibiting for longer than that, haven't you?
Yeah, I would say yes. I don't even know how old I am now. Too old. I think I trying to remember rightly. I actually um, I was working with Pauline at Art Bay when she first kicked off Art Bay, and I remember some kind of conversation about Pauline and I having that my paintings, because I was actually working at the gallery, so I had great training from Pauline. I remember that got to the point where my paintings were selling so well that there was no point in me working in the gallery. So I was like, well, she said, well, I mean, it was the best firing ever, really, because you really shouldn't be working here anymore. You should be painting full time. So I stopped working at the gallery officially and just went in and helped out when needed, and started painting full time. So yes, I had Pauline to thank for kicking me off into the
Mm.
into launching me into art space, I suppose.
Yes, how amazing. And you've had over 40 solo shows since
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
which
yes,
is astounding.
yeah. I think I feel tired just thinking about it,
I
actually.
know, so do I.
Yeah, I do. As I said, I'm very disciplined with my work ethic, and I do enjoy having a focus for each show. And I also make sure that all of my paintings are finished at least 6 weeks before the show, so that I have a bit of downtime in my brain and I'm not rushing the last minute. For it really helps to have that sort of space. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not painting, I'm still painting. I'll be creating, more stock for other galleries or commissions. I get a lot of commissions. So it's still working, but it's not the pressure of working for that particular show. And I think having that headspace around it is really nice, because then when you turn up to see the exhibition itself, seeing the paintings hung, because by the time I finish some of them, I just want to throw them down the bank. Like, honestly, I could probably, some paintings have several bottles of gin attached to them as well. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. So having a break from them completely and then seeing them presented in the galleries, you go, oh yeah, that's why I do it. So
Yeah, it's all
yeah,
worth it. Yeah. And
yeah,
nice to have that space so that you're not feeling completely ragged right before your show.
yes, exactly. And I tell us when I tend to book a holiday, for example. So if we're going to go away, my husband and I are going to go away, then we'll inevitably we'll book it probably the week before I have a big show, or the week
Mm.
up, normally the week before, because I nearly always get commissions from the shows. So um, I know that as soon as I've had the show, it's back to work. Apart with the exception of the show coming up, because I'm not going back to work for 3 weeks after that one, which is rather
Yeah. You're going
nice.
to the
Yeah,
UK, which is
yeah,
lovely.
yes.
So, I mean, let's start talking about your actual practice. Can
Mm,
you describe the paintings that you make?
yes, messy. So I have, they come out looking so, like, they come out looking like they do, which is a strange thing to say, but sort of tidy and neat, like I've made all these plans and how this is how it's going to look. But the beginnings of them are a lot of sticky black muck, which I make, which is a sort of modeling compound and special arty sands and all sort of things. So I make this big black pot of sticky muck, and that is the modeling compound that I use for the tree bark. So there's at least probably 20 layers on each painting before the tree bark even gets anywhere near it. So once I've got the background going, then I place this sticky black goo all over it, and then that has to dry. So I'm very lucky because I have a fantastic studio which is 12 meters by 6 meters, and it was the garage, and it's a big solid concrete garage as well, with completely converted it into a studio. So the cars get second place in our house. We bought, actually, the house we're in now has got a carport. We bought it because it's got a carport, and my husband's like, "Oh, all right, no, you can have the garage now because at least I can get the car, the cars out." So I have a huge area. So basically, I work on 4 or 5 at the same time. A lot of that's got to do with drying times. Several of the layers have to dry before I put the next layer on. The paintings are very thick. They're modelled because I use a spatula, and so once one layer is on one painting, it needs to dry really before I put the next layer on. It's certain layers. It's tricky to describe really, but in short, I work on 4 or 5 at a time so that I can keep going, and I'm not waiting around for anything to dry. Or if I don't need it to dry, perfect, and I keep going on with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always surrounded by 4 or 5 half finished paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're creating landscapes, I guess. Is that how you see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely joyful landscapes.
Yeah, absolutely joyful. And you often do paint trees, but you also seem to place a lot of emphasis on blossom and flowers and also the ground under
Yeah.
the trees and then with the big emphasis again on perspective and depth and light. So
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, you can definitely tell that it's a Rachael Errington beautiful painting. There's
Well, that's
something
good to
about
hear.
your work that is very unique and very identifiable.
Which is
So
good. I
yeah,
aim for that. I mean, I think I'm pretty lucky as well. I do have that typical artist brain, but I also have a pretty keen business brain as well. So I worked in marketing. Part of the graphic design stuff was also marketing and sales. I've done all sorts of things. I've sold houses. There's been a whole load of stuff. I couldn't even tell you how many different jobs I had whilst I was coming to this one. But I'm blessed with the ability. I'm quite thick-skinned as well. So working on my branding, keeping what I do as a recognizable Rachael Errington is something that I've actually done on purpose. So moving that branding forward, that's something that I've worked on continuously for years and years, is pushing that brand. Rachael Errington. It's just a brand. That's it. So I didn't change my name when I got married. People were like, oh, you'll be a Davy now. And I went, nope, I will not.
yeah, makes
I
sense.
will continue with my brand. So because
Mm.
Errington's not that usual of a name either. There's not that many of us. So it's good. It was a good one to keep.
Yeah, absolutely. But then
Yeah.
you have those ideas that run through all of your paintings, but you also create every painting is so unique within that. So
Yeah.
how do you work out what you're painting and what it's going to look like in the end?
It's hard to get ideas if you try and force the ideas, like what can I paint next? If I ever get to that point, I just take a day and go for a walk. Because then I'm surrounded by my own subject matter, which is great. Especially when I'm in New Zealand. We haven't talked about this yet, but I spend half my time in Australia and half my time in New Zealand. I'm a sun chaser, basically.
Mm,
But I love things like New Zealand autumn is unbeatable down south. So I will spend time there taking photographs of the trees and walking around Arrowtown. And then even here in Australia, New South Wales, autumn is fabulous. It's beautiful. People forget that Australia has. I've just been to Sydney for 2 days, and it was freezing. It was really cold.
yeah.
It was great because it's autumn, so there's everything. There's leaves everywhere, and it's beautiful. And so if I'm feeling like I'm forcing out an idea or I'm trying to think of something new to do, I just take a complete step back and go and find something beautiful to look at. You just go for a walk. It's just,
Mm,
wherever I am in the world, even if it's, I'm in an apartment block in San Francisco, I'll go for a walk. I'll go to the park, do something. One of my tricks that I absolutely love to do is float in a swimming pool because I'm a very good floater. I don't know how or why, but I float. I'll float in the swimming pool and just stare up at the clouds, and I'll literally lie there until and suddenly, and it's amazing, it works almost every time. I'll get this kind of idea, and I think it's just because I'm meditating and I'm breathing and I'm quiet and I've found space and just watching the birds fly over and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, finding a quiet space inevitably will allow me to bring something through. So I just met a client in Sydney, and he has a couple of my paintings, and him and his partner were talking to me about the painting, saying, is it, did you put a spirit in there? Is there a spirit in the painting? Because we can see an angel in the painting. And I went, I don't know, did I? So I even went to his house for coffee. And sure enough, I went, oh, look at that. I did. I didn't even know I'd done it. So you can
Really?
very clearly see some kind of ethereal, something ethereal in the trees.
A lot of people feel like trees have their own spirits. Do you feel like that with trees?
Definitely. I mean, honestly, I know this is, I think this is on my profile on my website, but it's absolutely true. When we lived in Hereford, we really did live in the middle of a wood. And I would go into the woods and I would put my hand, find the biggest tree I could find, put my hands on it, and have a full-on conversation with the tree. And I'd like to say that was when I was a little girl, but right up to the age of about 16 or 17. So, yeah. In fact, I still do it now. I've just got to admit it. I will put my hands on a tree if I see something or feel something that feels. I mean, they're so tactile as well. I love to touch them, the bark, and obviously you have to be a bit more careful when I'm in Australia because you never know what you're going to grab. But
Yeah.
but most of the time it's okay. So yeah, I still do that. But also, I think it's they're tactile. So you touch a tree, and I get a feel for how that bark should feel. So I can actually bring that through to the painting as well.
Yeah.
It's important for me that people touch my paintings. People go,
Really.
I want to touch, but I mustn't. I go, no, touch it. Nothing's going to happen. It's fine. It's acrylic paint. You could probably throw it off the top of a roof and it would be fine. So, please touch the trees. It's fully okay.
Oh, that's so amazing. It's a lovely thing to be able to offer. And it is, I mean, the trees are quite sculptural within your paintings, aren't they?
Yes, and that's what I want for them. So I enjoy creating the bark. I enjoy giving it that three-dimensional texture, and I've definitely developed a technique for it. I do bring that texture through. You were talking about the blossoms. So I call it the scratchy stuff in the foreground, like the itchy stuff, the grass. I say itchy because I get terrible hay fever, but the grass and the flowers and the sticks and the leaves and the debris that forests create, I find quite fascinating. And so I bring it larger than life. I mean, I love to do one of my favorite things is to paint, some kind of blossom tree and I love putting dandelions in there. You can't beat a dandelion. Beautiful, bright yellow flower. And yellow is a very happy color. And I love yellow and green. And actually, when I was packing yesterday, I realized that my entire wardrobe is currently yellow and green. So
Really?
that's, yeah. And then I'll have a whole few months where I only paint red things. So I'm just about to paint a bright red wisteria tree, for example. Got
Mm,
an order for a huge red wisteria tree, which actually is on my Instagram, I think. The idea for it, which is one of my older paintings, which I will develop. But yeah, the blossom, it's just about color, really. Color, happiness. I want people to be happy and feel joyful. And even I've done a few things for people that have remembrance things, people who've passed and things like that. And I love the fact they've chosen my trees, which are a hopeful thing, to represent that.
mhm.
When my nana died, I was very close to her. So I painted a painting called The Bench of Remembrance. And because we didn't have a bench for her, so I painted a painting with one of her favorite trees. She loved oak trees. She's loved oak trees with a bench underneath it. And that was for her. So,
Lovely.
yeah, so I have done a few little bits and pieces like that for people as well.
Mm,
Weird stuff. A trout once in the trees. Yeah,
really?
yeah, a trout. So each to their own. Why not?
Absolutely. And so
I,
it does feel like you're bringing your own sense of humor into your paintings in some very subtle way sometimes.
yeah, I like to be. I'm a bit like a puppy. I run around. I'm really excited. I'm really happy. Everything's amazing. Everything's amazing. Everything's amazing. And then bam, no energy. So there's I like that. The paintings are a bit like that as well. Like it's crazy. Some days I am so energized by a painting that I can almost finish it, I reckon, if I really pushed it. And then other days I sit there and stare at them going, ugh. And if I get to
Mm,
that point, I know there's absolutely no point in sitting and staring at it. So go and do something different. Go and
yeah.
stretch a canvas. Go and pester my local framer and see what, frames he's got that I might like. Go do something else because everything, actually, that was a really valid thing to learn. for many years, if I wasn't painting, I didn't associate it with working. And it took me a while to learn that everything I do associated with my art business is, in fact, working. So if I have to drive out to my framer to pick up a new canvas or to drop one off to be framed, that is also working. I used to go, oh, now I'm not working, so I have to get back to go to work. It's like, no, you're still working. So validating my time as work. I went off tangent a bit there, but the jolliness comes in. It's definitely, I definitely want the paintings to be happy. I mean, sometimes they're spooky, but that's okay. Maybe I'm feeling spooky. And I think they've got happier as I've got happier as well. Like my life has definitely become easier. It has, and I'm saying that. I got 2 stepkids. My God. But it's definitely become easier.
I've noticed that when you're doing your underpainting and starting a brand new painting, it's almost like you create another landscape and then you keep adding to that landscape, and then it sort of brings on another sort of feel, and you're adding more detail, and almost the original landscape that you created is, you can barely see it sometimes.
Yes.
Which I found really interesting. It's almost like you could actually sell your first underpainting landscape.
You know what? It's funny because I love the underpaintings, and that's probably how I've started painting anyway. And I have done a whole show with just underpaintings, actually, which was quite cool. But as I said, building my brand was really important to me. So creating something that it's getting that balance between having a product which sells and having really good life work balance and enjoying what you do. You can't paint happy, pretty trees and flowers if you don't like painting them. I mean, it's crazy. And so I start with that underpainting, and that gives me exactly what I need to create the rest of the painting. So the underpainting is often the part that takes the most time, because that's where I'll get the perspective, or where I want to put the light point, or how I'm going to push that perspective a bit more. So I do actually always keep a copy of the underpainting so that I can refer back to it. I just take a photograph of it and refer back. And also it's quite nice to see the stages, especially if I'm doing a commission. So I nearly always present the finished commission, or how I perceive it to be finished, not the stages up until then, because people panic. They think, is that it? Is it finished? I'm like, no, it's not even started. But it's nice afterwards to be able to present those images and say, this is the finished piece, and here are a few of the stages, which I like to build.
Absolutely. And are you thinking, I mean, you mentioned that you do take photographs and you spend time in nature, but when you create a new painting, are you thinking about a particular place that you're going to paint, or are you really responding to a photograph you've taken, or is it kind of a combination of all those things?
Definitely a combination of all those things. Like Paul and I do loads of hiking. We love walking, and it's beautiful where we live here, and it's also beautiful. Obviously, New Zealand's amazing for that. So I just take photographs of leaves and trees and flowers and grass and things all the time, and my memory is very visual. I'm absolutely shocking at remembering anything on paper, but if you give me a visual, I can remember it. And what's funny is sometimes I'll see something and I'll think of a new painting or something, a new idea that I want to paint. And I think, how the heck have I not thought of that before? Like, it seems so obvious to me when it drops into my lap. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. Why haven't I done this before? And I'm like, well, I feel like that about a lot of them. So that's just how it is. I think.
Which is such a lovely process.
Yeah.
And your works are so incredibly popular. I did read that you are one of the most prolific best-selling artists in New Zealand, which is amazing.
It feels funny when you say it out loud.
Yeah, well, I think it's true. What do you think it is that people like about your work?
I hope that it's helping people connect with feeling happy, basically. I want people to walk in and go, oh, wow, look at that. Like, I like drama. A bit of drama in the paintings is always good. And drama doesn't have to, I don't mean like, drama, happy drama, excitable drama, just a color, or maybe just it's gentle. It's a soft, gentle light, but the light is leading you towards something. So there's still something that makes people question about what they're looking at. Is it a peaceful place? Is it somewhere they would want to walk through? Does it remind them of something? And I don't particularly go after any one country or anything like that. When I first started painting in New Zealand full time, people were like, oh, you should paint this and that, kowhais and this and that, New Zealand trees. And I'm like, well, I paint what I want to paint. It doesn't matter if it's not a tree from New Zealand. And I have painted kowhais actually, and I love painting kowhais with their beautiful yellow flowers. So it really comes down to going back to the process of what I paint and how I collect my imagery is what I see around me and how it's absorbed. And I think that's what people pick up is like there's I try and keep a fresh energy, a bright energy, something that people will be able to look at forever and feel happy with. They're peaceful. They're supposed to be peaceful.
Yeah, and they really are. They're so, so beautiful. And I think the light and the sun rays and the way you capture that brings another element to the paintings, which is really beautiful and peaceful and sort of tranquil. How do you actually create those amazing sun rays and even sometimes the mist?
They are the last thing that goes on the painting. But the first thing that goes on the painting is the light point. So to get the perspective, I start with the very last point of light. So if the sun's going to be a low sunrise popping through the trees, then I'll just use white paint to mark out where that's going to be. And then I'll mark out where the largest tree is going to be. Once I've got the furthest away light point and the closest tree to me on there, then I can make the rest happen. So I basically make it all happen. And then the very last thing I do is the shadows and the sunlight. And before I put them on, I put a coat of varnish on. So if I screw it up, I can just wipe it off.
That's brilliant.
It's hard to get the rays right sometimes because they have to be straight because light doesn't bend. And as my husband constantly points out to me, one is even slightly wonky. Yes, so I do. They go on last. And once I'm happy with them, and it's just a case of a paintbrush and the right thickness of paint. It has to be you have to do less. Less is more. And if you have to let it dry. And if you decide you want more, then I need to varnish again and then add more. Yeah, well, when you put white paint on, it looks a lot whiter than it is. So you might panic and pull it back off. But actually, if you let it dry, it'll probably just come off a little bit from that anyway. So I do varnish between each coat of light just to make sure that And then when I think it's finished, then it just gets its final coat of varnish and hopefully it's done.
That's amazing. That's so interesting. And do you actually use mediums for the light to kind of make it more translucent at all?
Yeah, I can do. I have actually just run out, you've just reminded me, so thank you, of a really beautiful silvery translucent light. And it's really pretty on the greeny spring ones. And occasionally I do a moonlight frosty one, which I love. I haven't painted those for ages, actually. Yeah, the moonlit ones, I did a whole series of moonlit trees. And I really enjoyed painting those. And that I used this really pretty opaque silvery paint, which was gorgeous when the light hit it. It sort of popped out this really shimmery, almost magical thing. So, but generally, if it's warm sunlight, then I need to use a warm color like Naples yellow or something like that, and you knock it right back. So it's thin. Yeah, it is definitely a bit of trial and error with this, and sometimes I just get it wrong.
I can imagine, and it's not just a simple white. I mean, there's so many colors that I guess you're sort of taking from the color that you've already put into the painting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I actually find working in the lighter colors much harder than working in the darker colors. Always have done. I don't know if that's something to do with my eyesight. It's a bit slightly dodgy on the left. So, but the paintings are always black. I paint the canvases black.
Do you?
Yeah, always.
Why is that?
Because then I can put the light point on. Right. So the light point goes on first. So if I paint the whole painting black, then I can put the light point on and use, as I said, I sort of do things in negatives. So I don't paint black trees onto a golden background, for example. I put a black background and I paint the light in first and leave the trees behind. Yes.
Ah, okay, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. And then the modeling paste is dark, and what
Yeah.
creates
So
the bark.
yes, that's right. So that's black, or browny goo sort of coloured. And then once I've applied the layers onto the trees, normally it takes a few layers to build up that kind of look. And depending on what trees I'm doing, whether it's birches or beeches or whatever. Um, Once it's dried and I've got enough texture on there, then I start to paint over the trees. And that's when I can really get into the details, because the deeper crevices, I suppose, in the sculptural paste will create lovely dark creases in the trees. So I really work on those and I highlight a lot of the bark texture so that it actually really looks like there is bark and the sun's hitting it.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's so interesting. And when you come to thinking about what you're going to be painting, I have seen an image of a beautiful journal or scrapbook that you have sort of drawn up
Mm-hmm.
some little initial drawings, and sometimes they're out of pastel and other things.
Yes.
What do you do? Can you tell us about your process right at the beginning?
Yeah, so funny enough, that little book comes out about once every 6 months, and I keep it with me. An idea will be itching the back of my head. So I'll start grabbing my pencils and my pastels, and it normally starts with the colour, actually, and I'll try a little sketch with the pastels and we'll see how it goes. And then that itch just won't stop being itchy until I've probably got 10 or 20 pastel shots. Um, and they do, yeah, but using pastels is great actually, because it's such a quick and easy way to get colour on paper that has a nice depth to it. And of course, you can scrub it around with your fingers and make it do this, that, and the next thing. So yeah, about every 6 months, the pastels come out and I start doing some little sketches. And honestly, those little sketches combined with walking and the photographs really are
Mm.
the baseline for all of the paintings.
Yeah, and then sometimes commissions lead you down a slightly different path, I guess.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
How do you find commissions?
I really like doing them. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I enjoy what I do, so I guess I'm very good at working with the client. So, and all the galleries that represent me and support me will just hand the client to me because they know that I will work with the client and I'll get it right for them. So I just keep going until it's right, until they're comfortable and they're happy.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's again part of your brand and part of your business.
yeah, yeah. I really want people to be, yeah, obviously really happy with their painting that they've got to look at for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rachel, you live partly in Australia and partly in New Zealand, which is amazing. And you have galleries in both countries,
Yes.
which would be quite an interesting way to work as an artist. How do you find juggling different galleries in different countries?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I have such a start with New Zealand. My New Zealand galleries, the galleries that represent me in New Zealand, I should say, are fabulous, all of them. And I'm also really, really good friends with the gallery owners as well. I mean, everyone is really supportive. Everyone has seen my journey and come with me on it, I think, because my work has changed a lot as well. I mean, it started off completely different. My trees were totally abstract when I first started painting them,
Really?
completely abstract. Yeah. So they've gone from, I did a series called Gold Trees, which was, I really loved actually. And I haven't painted any more of those. So they're few and far between these days. People will be glad to know. Yeah, so the galleries have really come on a journey with me, and they've been very supportive through everything. And they've seen me grow, and they've helped me grow. So yeah, my New Zealand galleries are great, and they all talk to each other, and they work
Mm.
with me. We work together. I'm very, very supportive of the galleries and what they do. I need them to
Yeah,
do stuff that I don't have time to do.
that's right.
I can either paint 50% of the time and do marketing myself 50% of the time, or get a gallery, which then I've got to man it, and then I'm not painting. Or I can paint and focus on what I do best, which is painting, and let the marketing be taken care of by the galleries, which is
Yeah,
wonderful. Yeah,
that's smart. And you're
yeah,
with Art Bay Gallery in Queenstown and
yes.
Exhibitions Gallery, which is in Auckland and Wellington. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So Exhibitions Gallery is in Wellington, and the gallery in Auckland is now called Art Select.
Okay.
Um, yes, and they work very closely together.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is brilliant. And they're, as you said, very supportive. And then you have a gallery in Australia as well.
I do. So I should also mention I've got a small gallery in New Zealand in a Tautau, um, and it's that wonderful old converted church in a Tautau, and
Ah,
yes, and Pamela
beautiful.
she does extremely well for me, and I should give her a shout out as well because she's brilliant and a lovely lady. So if you're
Mm.
ever down that way, the little church is
Yes.
amazing.
What's the name of that gallery?
A Tautau gallery. It's in no in a Tautau.
Oh, right. Where's
Yeah.
Otato?
Well, it's a good question. It's basically between Queenstown and Invercargill is the easiest way to describe it.
Oh, okay.
Off to the side of it. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's great. Yeah. You've got
Yeah.
a nice spread across New Zealand. And
Yeah.
tell us about your gallery in Australia.
So the gallery in Australia actually is a very recent thing because I send when I'm working in Australia, I just send all my work back to New Zealand. I mean, essentially the reason I'm in Australia right now is because I've got a massive studio here, which is great. And I live next to the beach, so that's nice. And it's just a change of scene because I'm good with a change of scene.
Mm,
It inspires me.
yeah.
So I just sent all my work to New Zealand for the last couple of years.
Mm,
And it's amazingly inexpensive to do so from Australia. So it makes no difference to the end price or the client. It just all comes out in the wash. But recently, yes, I did get discovered, I should say, by a lovely lady. I just got chatting to a lady in a gallery in Hastings Street in Noosa who was smashing, and she's an artist and her work was fabulous, and I loved it. So we did a swap of let's look at each other's art, and she went, oh, "You have to come in this gallery. You have to." And so, sure enough, I've prepared them some paintings, and they have a sister gallery in Melbourne, which is fantastic. So
yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
the first painting they had was a large piece, a blossom piece, and they sold it within 4 days. So they're very happy. And so am
Wow.
I.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
incredible. And
yeah.
what's the name of that gallery?
That is Nisarana Galleries
Okay,
in Hastings Street in Noosa. Yeah, and
brilliant.
the same name in Melbourne as well.
And do you find any difference between selling your work in Australia and in New Zealand?
Not really, no. I mean, interestingly enough, I do have quite a few clients in Australia already, which have purchased from the galleries in New Zealand. So I'd only had that painting in a couple of days, but already they'd had two people come in who had purchased paintings of mine in New Zealand and were on holiday in Noosa, which was crazy, really. So
Yeah.
made me look great. So that was fine.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And you do have such um, a loyal following, and many collectors have more than one of your works, which must feel
Oh
really
yes,
good.
yes. I've got one chap who's got 8 on the last count.
Really.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you got any advice to people listening to how to get to this point, and what is it do you think that you've done that's made your art practice so incredibly successful?
For me personally, consistency and branding, and also improving, get better, do what you can to get better, and a lot of about being and getting better is experiment. I do quite a lot of experimenting, interesting. Just I'll grab a couple of canvases or stretch out a couple of canvases just for myself to play with. And recently we had a whole load of leftover paint from renovating the house. So I had a big piece of black canvas left over from something or other. So I threw paint at it, greys and silvers and whites and sort of rust color. And it just looks like a big splat. And I love it. It's like, oh, I've made a mess. And I did. I made a hell of a mess. And my husband came in and went, "What is that?" And I said, that is my creative side coming out. He's like, "So you're not creative normally then?" But yeah. So experiment, push. It doesn't matter if something you do comes out and you think, well, that's rubbish. It doesn't matter because you'll always learn something from it. So pushing your boundaries is really good. I do. if I need to know something, or if I think I'm doing something, I could do it better, then, the internet's great for YouTube, for people with just 3 little tutorials, how to increase your light point, or how to check your perspective, or and then some people don't even care about that either. I've never painted to be realistic. So I don't care if they don't look realistic. All I care about is they're happy and fun. And
Really?
I did have one lady, lovely, lovely lady, say to me, "Oh, that they just you just need to, your perspective's not quite right." And I went, "Yes, but I don't care. It's not supposed to be." She went,
Mm.
"Oh, well, in that case, it's fine."
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. And
Yeah,
I was wondering too if you actually feel like you need to be sort of botanically correct when you're actually drawing a certain type of tree. Do you care about that?
no, no, I don't. It's not. It's an interpretation. They are an interpretation. I know that some of them look really weirdly realistic, but actually they're not. If you actually look at a real tree and you look at what I do, they're not. They're different. It is an interpretation. I
Mm.
mean, I don't go mental with loads of branches or anything like that. It's for me, it's very obvious what it is, but they are not realistic in photographic sense of
Yeah. Which
yeah.
is quite freeing, I suppose.
It is, it helps to remind myself of that. And
Mm.
also, when you look at them in the flesh, if you get up close to them, they just look like a bunch of splats as well. So they look very detailed from a distance. When you get up close, they are just lumps of paint. They are sculptured splats that come together. It's almost like giant pointillism, I would say.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And I do what's really interesting, which is something else that people could note going, if you want to do this for a career, is my paintings do not photograph in anything like as well as they look in the flesh. So because you cannot see, the texture just looks like I've been very cleverly painting trees. And it's not that. They're so three-dimensional. When people see them in the flesh, they feel much more blown away than seeing them on the screen, I would say. So that's something that you have to sort of get round as an artist, because you could send 10 galleries an email saying, "Please, I'd love you to represent me." And they see your paintings, but it's better to see them in the flesh if possible. Pauline from Art Bay walked into my graphic design office, and she was getting I think she was getting some cards done for her husband. And she looked up at one of my paintings, which was just behind me in my office, and she said, "Who did that?" I went, "Me." And she said, "I can sell that for you. How much do you want for it?" I said, "I don't know. What do you think?" So, and that was the beginning of our relationship. And
Yeah.
then I had paintings up in the gallery at Queenstown, and Exhibitions Gallery. Ron from Exhibitions Gallery from Wellington, he was in Queenstown having a look around, and he came in, and I didn't know he was a gallery owner, and he pointed to one of my paintings and went, "Wow, that's fantastic. Who's the artist?" And I said, "Me." Me, I'm the artist, which was very exciting. So my stuff has grown very organically. I've honestly, I think I've approached 2 galleries in the whole time that I've ever been an artist. And one gallery said it wasn't their thing, they didn't want to sell it. So fine, I don't want them to sell it if it's not their thing, because you've got
Yeah.
to connect, you've got to love to sell. And then another gallery was they were like, "Oh, I think we've already got a landscape artist." I'm like, but that without seeing them in the flesh, it's very tricky to actually make a decision around it. But I'm happy with what I've got. I don't need any more than what I've
Mm.
got. Very
No.
happy keeping up with what I've got. I much rather nurture a relationship. Scattergun doesn't really work. I'll say that. Don't take too many galleries on. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's too stressful, especially if you start to sell and you're like, how do you keep up with it? You've only got 2 hands.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so interesting and so inspirational how well you're doing, Rachel, and what beautiful work you're making. So
Well,
well
thank you.
done. Yeah. Now, I really want to talk about a fairly catastrophic event that happened to you in 2020. You had a brain tumor, a benign brain tumor, which was operated on. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that time of your life?
Yes, absolutely. It was very strange because it was during lockdown. So it was odd. It was an odd time anyway. And people say to people say to me, well, everybody stopped sort of talking so much about COVID and lockdown now, but when it was sort of just after it happened and people were still talking about COVID and lockdown, and they'd say to me, how did you do? I suppose you could just keep painting. And I said, well, actually, I didn't really take any notice of COVID or lockdown because I was in hospital having a brain tumor removed, so I had other priorities. I just didn't really have anything to do with it for the first 3 or 4 months. And then coming out of that was interesting. The pressure on my brain from the tumor was creating havoc with everything, with my eyesight, I had a headache for 5 years. And and I remember just before it was diagnosed, my husband and I went on a holiday to Perth, and it was absolutely beautiful. And we went, it's just gorgeous on the west coast of Australia. But I remember just lying on the bed in our hotel going, I'm just too tired to go out today. And that's insane to be on holiday and just, it's like, I'm not sick. I don't think. I'm just exhausted. And why am I so tired? And so one thing led to another, and I ended up having a CT. And yes, sure enough, they found the lump. And I was booked in for an operation, and then COVID hit. And then the operation was cancelled because it wasn't deemed as an emergency.
Wow.
Which it was strange because it was. And then and then luckily, as I had some private healthcare left over from when I first arrived in New Zealand, I didn't know what healthcare I would need. So I rang them up, and the surgeon had a look at my scan and said, immediately get here, immediately.
Really?
Yeah, you should not be anywhere other than on my surgery table tomorrow. So we literally drove, and the day after I had surgery. So we drove from Taupo to Auckland with absolutely not one single car on the road, apart from the policeman who pulled us over to check that we were, not trying to escape anywhere weird.
Wow, that's insane. And that must have just been so traumatizing and stressful.
It was so strange because I think I'm one of those processes that when I'm in the moment, I just deal with it. You can pretty much throw anything at me and I will deal with it. And then I put aside my shock to be dealt with at a later time. So I did have some really amazing counselling from a lady who really helped me just to chat. She was just lovely, just talking about the fact that it was okay to feel traumatized. It was okay to feel scared. It was okay to be nervous about it coming back, for example, because there was a fairly high chance of it coming back. Initially, it was a 25% chance of it returning. Because of the type of tumour it was. I mean, luckily it was benign, but it was very large. It was two golf balls was the surgical term. Thank you for my surgeon. Must give a shout out to my surgeon, Andrew Law, who was amazing. And so he did a fantastic job, but full on craniotomy. Very strange coming round from an operation thinking you've had your head cracked open. Scared. I actually scared the nurses but in a funny way, because I came round. I'm always very chatty when I come round for an operation. You can't tell. Blah, 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 blah. And I remember coming round. Of course, I've got bandages on my head and I'm absolutely off my head on morphine as well. And the two nurses were discussing what kind of headphones they should get. And I just bought new headphones. And apparently I just sort of suddenly went, oh, no, get the cordless ones, get the blah, 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 and just went on this. And they both jumped out their skins and looked at me and went, oh, she's awake. She's awake.
She's alive.
She's awake and alive. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that would have been a life-changing event for you and your loved ones. How do you feel like it's influenced your art practice at all?
Definitely. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? I don't know if there's a cusp in your life when you suddenly realise that you're looking at how much time you've got left without sounding at all morbid. It's not what I mean. It's not a morbidity that I'm thinking like that. But I think in that instance, you suddenly go, well, crikey, if I'm going to do something different with my life or really push for something else to happen, this is the time now. This is it. And that's when my husband and I decided that we would like to take our businesses respectively, because his business is also in New Zealand and Australia, would be the time to move to set this up so that we could have, it's a life dream, it's a life goal. We wanted to have summer in New Zealand and winter in Australia, and that's what we're working towards, and that's what we do. So I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, as you know, to New Zealand. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it definitely made me more aware of seizing the moment, of course, um, and just living to be joyful. I think it's something that we forget. We forget to be happy. We're so stressed about this, and we're so stressed about that. And I know a lot of people can't help that they've got stress in their lives because of influencing outside factors, but I don't. So if I'm very lucky now. I'm like, well, don't create things that aren't there then. Just enjoy what is there and have fun with it. Allow anxiety to be alleviated by knowing if I go for a swim that I'll feel better for it. It took me an example. Yesterday, I had to pack my suitcase. It took me an entire day just to put the things into the suitcase because I'm having a little anxiety around flying. So instead of packing my suitcase, I said, right, stuff it. So I went for a walk and then invited a friend round for I'd say tea, but it would be a lie. We had a gin and tonic. And then, and just do something different to break the anxiety. So look for what's going to make you feel joyful if you possibly can. And that was something that both my husband and I have been working on a bit more, just by doing simple things, a little bit of yoga each day, something that is fun. I try and create something fun in each day.
And can you see any difference in your actual paintings?
I think so, yeah. I think they're happier. I mean, I struggled for a very long time with really high anxiety, and now I get anxious. I'm pretty sure half of it's only habit and anxiety was because the pressure that the lump was causing on my brain, the physical pressure was pushing all sorts of things all out over the place, hormones everywhere, and pain as well, and loss of eyesight and general stress and tiredness. And I'd had every blood test known to mankind to try and see what was wrong with me, and it wasn't until I lost my eyesight, that in my left eye, that obviously we knew something was really wrong.
That would have been very scary to lose your eyesight.
It was weird. It was so strange. As I said, I deal with things in the moment very well. I have to process afterwards. So in the moment, it didn't even cross my mind that it wouldn't come back. I'm like, oh, it's ridiculous. Of course it'll come back. I don't have time to only have eyesight in one eye, so therefore it will be fine. So yeah, it wasn't really until afterwards when I stopped and thought about it. But yeah, going into the operation was strange. I had to plan my own funeral because there was a reasonably high risk that I wouldn't come out of it.
Gosh.
That was odd. So obviously I said I wanted to be a tree. Thank you.
Yes, nice, of course. Wow,
Yeah.
I mean that's a lot to go through, and I guess the sort of the silver lining of a very difficult experience like that for most people who've gone through something like that is that you see your world in a slightly different way, and it can be a gift.
Yeah, definitely. And I look at it like that as well. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I was born when I was born, so that I had the medical care and able to get me to where I am now, which is 100% okay. Well, the side effects are so minimal. The most annoying one is vertigo. So I can get nausea and vertigo. So things like I've got a bike, which I hardly ever ride because it makes me feel dizzy. So I have to be very picky about when I do that. Standing on ladders is a bit tricky these days, things like that. But I mean, my concentration is limited. Like I'll be very tired after doing this podcast, for example. I'll take 10 minutes to close my eyes. Now this is something that I have to say. People don't do enough resting, right? And when I say resting, I mean, one of the things the surgeon told me to do was, as soon as I started to feel a bit tired, we all push through, don't we? I said, no, lie down on the sofa or wherever, put your feet up for 10 minutes and close your eyes. That's all you've got to do, because it just realigns you.
Yeah.
And he was right. So I do that. I try and do that at least once a day, even if I'm not feeling particularly tired. just lie down somewhere and put my feet above my head, even if it's only for 5 minutes. And it just gives you, and again, people say, well, not everyone's got time to do that. I'm like, well, maybe not, but try.
Yeah,
Try.
and try to make the time is the key.
Yeah, it's hard.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. It's hard because it's, I mean, the kids have grown up and they're not, they're doing their own thing and all that sort of thing now. So I do have my own time. And I understand what it's like when you've got, millions of kids running around like lunatics and all the rest of it. But for me personally, as part of my daily practice, I now lie down, put my feet up for 10 minutes and no more. Honestly, it never is any more than that. I never fall asleep either. I don't nap. I just breathe, meditate, take a minute. I mean, I guess some people go and have an afternoon cup of tea or coffee or something. But I quit my afternoon coffee drinking because I felt like I was drinking so much of it. So now it's a quick 10-minute meditation
Stop.
session.
Yeah, which is great advice, which probably all of us need to take on board. And because of your, you finding it hard to speak for too long and to concentrate for a long time with your, as the result of what you've been through, we're not going to go into the questions today. And I think it's been over an hour, so it would be nice maybe to let you have a little rest. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your incredible practice. You have so many really great tips for artists and for others. Thank you very much for sharing that really difficult time of your life. I think people hearing those stories is helpful for how we want to live our lives.
Yeah.
And you do actually have a solo show coming up at Art Bay Gallery.
I do. I actually have 2 solo shows coming up. One at Art Bay Gallery on the 20th and 21st. I will be in the gallery as artist in residence.
In June?
That is in June. That is I think this week, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll be in Art Bay Gallery this week, Thursday and Friday. And then I will be in Wellington Gallery on Wednesday. Wednesday's the 26th.
That's the exhibitions gallery.
Yes, I'll be in there the 25th and 26th because I'm also doing some painting in the gallery in Wellington as well. So yeah, 2 shows coming up. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So anyone listening who happens to be in Wellington or Queenstown can check out meet you or check out your work in person, which obviously, as you said, is the best way to see it. Yeah, lovely to meet you, Rachael, and thank you very much for being on the Creative Matters podcast.
No, thank you so much.